Hey, everybody. This is Phrase. Real Talk with George Fraser. Tonight, unfortunately, George won't be with us tonight. He has family emergency. You're going to miss him. But guess what, though? I guess he's here today. We're going to bring her in. Miss Carmen Miller. Come on in.
Hey, how are you?
How are you? What's going on?
I'm good. I'm so glad to be with you guys. Well, with you.
One of them got part of you. Be back next time.
Right.
I tell everybody, I'm tell you the line from him. We already don't know how to tell people about a story, so we already butcher it. So let him tell himself. So let me I still laugh on the line from him. But tell us a bit about yourself though, like how you got into music and stuff, and about your bio. Tell about you.
All right. Well, my name is Carmen L. Miller, and I am a singer-songwriter, originally from Detroit, Michigan, by way of Toledo, Ohio. That's where I reside right now. I have been singing since I was 4, and that is the name of the label that I started by myself with my husband and I. We started a label called Since I Was 4 LLC to put out the music that I love, that I've been writing since I was a little girl. And I started out singing in the Sunshine Choir in Detroit, Michigan at First Glory Missionary Baptist Church. My mother was a choir director and my godmother was the piano player. So I had no choice but to sing. I had no choice. Everybody in my family is musical, from my brothers and sisters, my mom, my aunts, and everybody. We always had music going on. My brother actually initiated me into the music industry. Years ago, I was his hook girl. No, he's a rapper, and he made a little bit of noise, Mr. International. I don't know if you remember back in the 90s, Remy and Alizé. That was me. Remy and Alizé. Can you feel it, baby? That was me. I was young. I was like, I was little, super little. I was a hook girl in the 90s. So yeah. So it just went from there. I think I have sang every single genre of music there is. Seriously.
Oh wow.
Everything from hip hop to heavy metal. Seriously.
Yes, you do heavy metal, but I hate that way.
Yeah, no, I used to front a band called Aftermath. Okay. And yeah. I used to front a band called Aftermath. So I've sang everything. I've been a part of just about every kind of musical movement there is because I love it so much. And like I said, I went from singing hooks and stuff. I was in a girl group. I did all the 90s stuff. I was in a girl group. I joined a band and I learned, kind of like paid my dues and just learned the ropes from being in a actual working band. So for me, the writing and the recording is just as important as the performance aspect. So you have to bring it all together.
Exactly. That is so true. I don't think a lot of people really know the behind the scenes is a lot more important than the finished product.
Right.
Back there, man, right?
It's a lot. It's a massive undertaking when you really try to put your thoughts down and really try to speak honestly about what it is that you want or believe or anything like that. When it comes to music, you have to be authentic, and sometimes that's the hardest thing, because I find a lot of times people get writer's block for a long time because they have a hard time telling their truth,
That is true. That is so true. There's George, by the way.
Hi, George.
Hi,
I'm well. I'm really good.
Sorry for being late. I was dealing with some issues over here.
That's okay.
You had me steal your line and everything, and he pop up like that, like a ghost, really?
I've been talking too much anyway.
Well, you have
I was going to ask a question about how do you get over your writer's block?
Well, you know what? For me, the biggest thing is to find a story to tell. Whether it be something that I experience or something that I see or something that really moves me, whether it be in something in the news or anything like that. For the longest time, I'll tell you, my biggest inspiration, believe it or not, was the Bible. And I wrote a couple of inspirational albums based on, just really, exploring my faith. And then because I found myself at my lowest, and that was what got me through. So I took and I used that to kind of twist some inspiration into the songwriting as well.
Nice. I like that. I like that you write with a story behind it.
Yes. And it has to be relevant. It has to be something that not only just speaks to me, but something that other people can relate to, because too many times people get into this space where they only write for themselves and it becomes unrelatable, and then they wonder why nobody is picking up on their work. Well, you're not speaking to the people. You're not speaking to them and what they go through. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I greatly appreciate the Bible words. We need some of that right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sold out already.
For me, it was I did a record called All Good. That was my first. That was the first project that I put out on my label on Since I Was 4. And my roots, like I said, I go back to being in the Sunshine Choir in Detroit. I go back to my roots, and it's actually a Christian album. So yeah.
I like those.
How many albums do you have?
I have 3 full projects. I have what's called Skin and Bones. I have All Good, of course, and my latest release will be Forever and a Day.
Ooh, that sounds good. Forever and a Day sounds good. What do you think, George?
Oh man, look, I'm telling you, Frage. I mean, I might have to fix my earbud again, but since then, man, I've been on a holiday, an official holiday.
Wow.
What? No, I mean by mental holiday, because
Hey, you need those.
After watching the inauguration and know that the change is here, my mind, I can just decompress. I can breathe. I can see things clearly.
I can see clearly now.
Right, that's right. All of a sudden, the air tastes a little bit cleaner. The water tastes a little bit cleaner. I mean, man, look.
Wow. Yes.
Oh, man.
All good.
Who you telling that? Oh, the best thing ever. I think everybody in Mo had a good day. Me personally,
I'm gonna tell you, people ask me too, because I tend to be outspoken on issues that matter to me, and that tends to be political, especially here lately within the last few years. And people ask me if I feel like that will alienate people from listening to my music. My thing is, I write for people who want to live positively and in love. Exactly. Not only with life, but with others and all of creation. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So love itself is usually the key where I start. So if you have a problem with my politics, which come from that place, you know what I mean, you probably won't get my music anyway. So I don't worry, about being outspoken or saying or speaking my truths, because that's what I want to draw towards me. I've always believed that you speak into existence and you draw things into your life based on how you speak and what you say and the things that you promote. And I've always been one to promote what is right and what is righteous and what is right in the way that I live, in the way that I walk, and in the music that I write, hopefully, and it has to be honest. And so hopefully people feel that. And I hope that it cuts across. I hope it cuts across politics. I hope it cuts across race. I hope it cuts across gender. I hope it cuts across all those lines, because love is universal.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. Once you touch that vein, everybody has to wake up and take a step back and go, wait, hold on. regardless of this or that. That's absolutely true.
That's so true.
Because love actually transcends people, race, and religion. That was the first
Right.
thing.
Right.
You know, God loved us so much. He didn't say He loved white people, black people, Indian people.
Exactly.
It's love. You know,
Exactly. And I find, this climate had gotten so toxic. The climate had gotten so toxic in terms of, the partisanship and people vilifying each other and making one out to be evil or that. My thing is that was never what we were supposed to be about. That was never who we were. We're one generation away from We Are the World. Okay.
right?
Exactly.
We're one step away from We Are the World, and we went from that to being at each other's throats for no apparent reason, and that's so crazy to me.
Well, it wasn't apparent reasons, Craig. Not to cut you off.
By design, yeah.
Yeah, it was by design, and it was for political power.
Exactly.
In order to succeed, um, one of the best strategies, even that we use today in this country, is divide and conquer.
Absolutely.
That's how they're able to go to places like Africa and Southern Asia and all these other places and put their people in place to divide and then conquer. And so when you have that mentality and mindset, and you can't see past the trees through the trees in the forest, it's always,
I completely
always,
agree.
it's always going to be that. And so
I
when you have
completely
somebody
agree.
who's a master manipulator who understands that and has done that for an adult of his whole life because he's been taken care of, the people that are, how do I say this, less educated, or just not even less educated, lazy, because everything now you can check with the internet search,
Very much so.
but they refuse. You see what I'm
Well,
saying?
well, here's the other thing too, and I want to interject this. A lot of times we gravitate towards what feeds our own preconceived notions.
Yep.
So what people were looking for, they weren't looking for answers, they were looking for permission.
Exactly.
They weren't looking for, a way out of a bad situation. They were looking for a reason to blame someone else for the situation. And that's
Right.
all. And
Exactly.
that is lazy. That's very lazy. And for me, one of the things that pulled it together for me and has always pulled it together for me is I'm a solution oriented person. Okay. So when you listen to the powers that be, if they're not speaking in terms of solution, if they're not speaking in terms of what to do or action, all you get is platitudes, all you get is accusations, all you get is a way to blame someone else for an issue as opposed to actually solving it. And that is a trick of the enemy, and that is a way to divide and conquer.
Exactly. That's true.
Keep talking. I'm right here with you.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you the whole thing. What grandfather told me, history repeats itself in many different ways.
Yes.
I tell people, if you ever look at the situation now, went through the same thing Rome did when
Absolutely.
they Caesar.
Okay, so you know what? You were speaking my language because I'm a history nerd.
You
I'm
already
a
know.
huge history nerd.
You already know that. And people always tell people that. It wasn't the battle that killed Rome. It wasn't the enemies. It was with power within. They did the same thing.
It was the struggle between democracy and autocracy.
Exactly.
Whether they were going to be ruled by an emperor or whether they were going to obey a senate that represented the people. And every civilization, every great civilization goes through this. Every great civilization has this conflict, and it's an inflection point where we are now in our history. And the thing about it, even if history, they say history repeats itself, and if it doesn't, it absolutely rhymes.
Right.
Exactly.
So we're parallel to many events in human history, not only the fall of Rome or even Babylon. We're also adjacent to the rise of Stalinism and the rise of communism, where people use socialism and communism interchangeably. They're two different things.
Yep.
And in extremes, all of it is dangerous.
Yeah. Very
Even
dangerous.
capitalism, even radical
All that
capitalism is
together.
dangerous.
Exactly.
But the other thing is, people always use the Hitler example.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the same.
But the thing about it is, it wasn't the catalyst. World War One was the catalyst.
Exactly.
And we just came out of a recessive period that mirrored World War One,
Exactly.
the economy and the depression behind that. So what we're living in is we're living in the congruence of a lot of different kinds of history.
Exactly.
What do you have? The pandemic, which followed World War One.
One of the big plague, Egypt.
Exactly.
The plague in Panama, that affected Panama when they were building the Panama Canal.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were building the Key West, when they were building the bridge in Key West, the fever, fever, measles, all that stuff killed millions of thousands of people, but they don't talk about it, but it goes back.
It does. I mean, even if you look at British colonialism, even if you look at the colonialization of the continent of Africa, you found that it was predicated by an economic catalyst, as opposed to this wasn't just a social thing.
Right.
Now, what we do, and I'm going all off in the weeds, and you guys shouldn't have me do this.
We have fun.
I'm supposed to be talking about music, and I'm waxing political and
we're going to go
historical.
We're going to go back to music.
Back to you later, but now
we're just trying to get you on the mental here because this is real talk.
Well, what we tend to do is we look for scapegoats when we find ourselves, and that's why the euphemism of economic anxiety is always interchangeable with racism.
Right.
Exactly.
Because people look for scapegoats when there is economic stress, okay? Because the fear is that there's not enough to go around. When the truth is there is enough to go around, but there is a certain few who are holding all the resources hostage.
Exactly. Like, mom back in Egypt happened in Egypt when they were fighting over the Nile River.
Same thing.
The queen overpowered, controlled the whole Nile River. Anybody who got Nile River, he attacked them, he robbed them, and then on top of that, he cut the Nile River off. Now, people know this in history. About that one part where they fight over Egypt and Jerusalem, all of them together. That one part he created because he wanted division to control all the shipping. He wanted to control all the trade. He wanted to control everything. He wanted to have all the power. But when he failed, now you have everybody want to fight over that one particular part because now,
of course, and then in times of lack and in times of famine, people are desperate and they tend to become tribal, and they war with one another. You know what I'm saying? So that's always happened throughout history, and that's kind of the place where we found ourselves here in the greatest land in the world. Hello.
The city on the hill, the city on the shining hill.
Exactly. So you've got all these things that are playing at the same time. They're playing in the same pool, and you've got a perfect storm for all of the things that we've just been through. And I'm hoping, and let me pivot back. I'm gonna pivot back to music. I'm hoping that those of us who chronicle these times, whether they be in the arts, in music and film, or in writing, I hope that we can somehow change the zeitgeist of our times to be a little more positive and to move people in a way that we become more unified.
Well, now let me add on to your point. I've been here quietly, patiently. But when we talk about, when you make the comparison to Hitler and Nazism, the reason why it was so successful wasn't just because of the catalyst of First World War. It was the message that he had.
Oh, well, absolutely.
And in our time now, when you have dueling media outlets,
oh my gosh.
Okay.
And then they had the internet.
Right. But if you have media outlets indoctrinating people
absolutely
with the same mentality, then it's easier for somebody to slide in.
Of course.
I mean, the thing about it that's really going to affect us that we don't know yet is because of what happened in the last 4 years, the term alternative facts has permanently been put into our English lexicon.
Ooh,
See what I'm saying? And so
yeah,
when you have kids that can sit there and justify, well, that might be an alternative fact, they don't understand that it's an oxymoron. Either it's a
it is.
fact or it's a fiction. It can't be alternative to the truth. You see what I mean?
And I'm 100% in agreement. I'm 100% in agreement. And that is where we are challenged. We are challenged with unindoctrinating an entire population of people. And it's going to take a radical movement of truth.
Exactly.
It's going to take hard truths all the time.
Right.
Because it's almost like do you remember that movie? What was the movie? Was it Drop Zone? No. What was it called?
Which one?
I can't think of the name of the movie.
Who was in it?
Was it Bamboozled?
I think it was Bamboozled. Yeah.
It was where they were deprogramming people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. It's almost going to have to be that radical for on a universal basis when it comes to our society, because so many people have bought into their version of reality, their own version of reality, as opposed to reality itself.
Right.
And it's scary. It's really scary because it was so quick. It's scary because it was so innocuous. It's scary because we all played our roles in that, you know, and by that I mean, you know, when you tune into social media, you have the opportunity to either be anonymous or silo yourself into seeing only what you already believe.
Right.
You know, and when you can, you know, close yourself off from differing voices or anything that challenges your paradigm, you're basically, you know, brainwashing yourself.
Well, yeah, but that's the key of social media. That's what social media work. Comments, photos, videos, clicks. That's how they set up their algorithm. So next thing you know, you're stuck in this vortex that you couldn't get out of 2 or 3 clicks. You're like, how did I get here? I clicked this. I clicked this. Now they talking about KKK and you know,
and people who you thought would never justify certain things
are doing it.
And that is the part that is
shocking.
Not just shocking, but that's the part that rhymes with the World War II German. That's the part that it's not just the people who are so far to the left or right. It's those people in the middle who can go along to get along.
Right.
You know, and who slowly allowed themselves to be lulled into some sense of camaraderie with the radical. You know, that's the scary part.
I'm telling you, it's a movie called Minority Report. Speaks the exact same.
I remember that.
Is ideal society. They implement things they want to hear in people's brains. They want them to think that everything is peaches and cream. They want things to be perfect. But in reality, behind a closed door, they manipulating every single event that's going on. Now I tell people, some movies may be factional, but will come time be reality in disguise.
That's right.
Well, and by the time we got to that place,
you
know what I mean? It was part of our everyday norm.
Exactly.
If you would have told me at 15, if you'd have told me at 15 that I would be walking around with something in my pocket that could track my every move, that would be able to basically, with a few clicks of you know, I'd be able to tune into anything in the world. I would have been like, how, who, what, where, why? You know,
if you saw Star Trek, you would have seen that. I'm telling people, if you ever seen Star Trek, the flip phone was the first thing came out of Star Trek.
Right.
Hey, Scotty, beam me up, Scotty. What we did? What the first commercial came out was?
Right.
When the phone flipped upside down.
Right.
Exact same mimic. I tell people, sometimes movies were affected to tell things, stories that people do not want to tell, or be scrutinized or idealized or criticized for saying their opinions. So they put it in movies.
I think that about literature. I think that about music as well. I think that you find that so many things, so many forms of art are ahead of their time.
Yep.
You read people like George Orwell or,
Yep.
the Margaret Atwood.
Yep.
So many of these things were so far fetched, so dystopian that we would never even think that they could possibly happen. And here we are, in the midst of
Right.
we're like at the crossroads of so many of these different
Yep.
events,
Yep.
and it was art. It was
Yep.
considered fiction. It was science fiction,
Exactly.
that kind of thing.
Remember, if you ever look at Socrates, he clarified a lot of the science and
Mhm.
mixed with the politics and socialism.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you look at him, he predicted a lot of stuff that happening now. He predicted all this to happen. And the thing is, he's centuries beyond
Oh
us.
God, yes.
And
And I love that. I love that you guys are talking about that kind of stuff because I mean, these are things that people, wouldn't necessarily, go and look up or go and check out. I mean, as far as like even with people like Da Vinci and
yeah,
things like that.
all of them. Mussolini. You know what? Now, I will tell you a person that idolizes what we went through with Mussolini.
Oh yeah, that was fascism.
Idolizes what Trump did in a way as they did actually the same thing with the French Prime Minister.
Mhm.
He did the exact same thing. Trump they almost did. They didn't quite do it, but
Well,
it was really close.
Here's the most dangerous thing about what we just went through. What we just went through basically was an indictment of our love of celebrity.
Yeah.
It was an indictment of our culture's love of celebrity. He didn't have to have credentials because he already had a name.
That's true.
True.
And with that came a sense of authority and that he knew what he was doing because he was well branded.
Exactly.
Okay. And too many times America as a society is so in love and so enamored with branding that the substance falls by the wayside.
Right.
Which is why our politics looks more like a beauty contest
Yeah.
than actual political discourse. You're not getting policy conversations. You're not getting real, and that's what I was looking for. And that's why I'm glad we are where we are now.
True.
Because
Well,
we actually got to the policy people.
yeah, I mean now, but you have to understand two things. Where we really started was, how do I say this? In 2000, when Bush forces Gore, there were a lot of feelings on both sides with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Democrats internalized their feelings, Republicans celebrated.
Yeah.
When Obama came, okay, you started to see the spread. And what does that mean? I remember on the campaign trail, he had a campaigner knocking on the door. And the lady came right out and said, I saw it on scene, I'll never forget it. She was like, I'm a Democrat, but I can't vote for that black boy.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she said. Right?
Yeah.
CNN.
I remember Joe from around my way.
Right. CNN never showed that clip again because they thought, oh, well, we don't want to keep putting that out there.
Right.
But I remember she said that. And if you remember during Obama, the Tea Party movement, that's what
I do remember that. That
seeing.
actually was, and that's where I was going with the economic anxiety being a euphemism for racism.
Right.
That's what was used as a door opener for the Republican Party to tap into an undercover racist sentiment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they exploited it with the Tea Party.
Yeah, Tea Party came in with Cruz, Rand Paul, all these other people.
And they were these people are covert, but they have always played in a racial space.
Role. But here's the problem.
They've always played in a racial space.
The problem with that, okay? They also awakened the underbelly.
Oh, of course.
And when that underbelly got awakened and the underbelly understood that they had power, okay? Power through the vote, power through primary, everything else like that, they used the power. So what we saw was here an expansion of the Tea. I mean, the Tea Party's still there, but this is Tea Party.
I will say this.
Okay?
I'll say this to that, to your point. the underbelly of all of this is fear.
Yep.
Yeah,
America is afraid of its karma, of its racial and ethnic karma.
exactly.
They are afraid that Black, brown, indigenous, and other people will one day want revenge instead of equity.
Yep.
Exactly.
And that's something that has never been on the table for us. That's never been a part of who we are or what we sought. And we were still singing kumbaya and we shall
Yep.
overcome while they were planning these kinds of political maneuvers, you
Exactly.
know, to and it's funny because the left has always played defense
Exactly.
when it comes to their political strategies, whereas the right plays offense openly and aggressively.
That's right.
Exactly.
And here, what we've seen with this political cycle is we've seen a younger, a more diverse electorate
Yep.
playing offense for their own preservation, and that has struck fear in the hearts of pretty much everybody on the right.
Yeah, but the thing is, you also have to understand too that it was so overt. Because I live in a Republican district here in New Jersey, so we have to kind of like be very
Baby, I live in Ohio. You already know.
right. So we kind of have to be careful a little bit on things that we do or say
You mixed
because
with Florida.
if they're so emboldened that they can come in and just think that they can say anything. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, hold on. I moved here from North. You can't just come and say anything.
Right. Look, I'm from Detroit.
You know, you
That's
have
right.
a right to say it, but I don't have a right to listen to it.
Listen to it.
You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
yeah, and see, for me, is I've always been one of those. Please don't let the smooth taste fool you,
Right.
because I believe in wielding my political power as well. You know,
Exactly.
I'm a policeman's daughter, okay,
Yep.
and the mother of Black sons.
That's right.
So I believe in gun control, but trust and believe I got them.
That's right.
That's
Absolutely.
true. But you know what's funny? I'm gonna tell you one thing. I'm gonna tell you highlight another thing that it took this here to actually highlight. I'm gonna take you back little boy history. You remember the Black Panther Party, correct? They
Right.
walked around with guns, right?
That's right.
They were more feared than a bunch of white folks carrying AK-47, a bunch of grenades, C4, and everything else, and they probably walked down the main streets. They were considered a group, a group of galvanization to voice their opinion, but it was not feared. But they did the opposite of what the other side did.
Well, you got to understand, Frage, what happened with the Black Panther Party. People
Well,
don't
you
give the
do
Black Panther
understand,
Party
yeah.
credit. Okay, the Black Panther Party is responsible for
Everything.
childhood breakfasts that are now in school because they
Can I
did.
can I go a little bit further and a little more personal?
Okay, let's do this. Let's
I'm going to go a little further and a little more personal. My mother was a member of the Black Panther Party.
Oh, there you go. You got really out of there.
In the Detroit chapter, and she was also on the ground floor of. She worked for the first incarnation of Head Start, because Head Start itself was an offshoot of their breakfast program. So that is very personal to me. That is very that is a very, very close and personal part of my story. Miss Irma Henderson, who ran for. She worked for Irma Henderson at Head Start, who ran Head Start in its earliest days, and she ran for mayor of Detroit not too long ago. But yeah, that's part of my story too. So I know exactly what you're saying. And the thing is, the other thing is, the very first measure of gun control legislation out of California.
You just hit it on the head.
Was done because they marched on the Capitol.
Exactly.
Well, they didn't march on the Capitol
because the Black Panther Party marched. No, they marched on the in Sacramento on California State Capitol.
No, I understand, but what happened was the Panthers were going for a permit, and they had their firearms on their things going to get a permit.
Exactly.
Ronald Reagan was on the other side. If the Capitol building is like this, there's a J like this. Reagan was over here doing the press conference. The Panthers were right here, okay? Because Reagan was sitting right there and the Panthers walked up the street on the other side of the building, the news looked and saw armed gunmen.
Exactly, and they made
were
that the
walking.
story. That's
Yeah,
right.
they were walking to get their permits to only come out and see police and everything. And they said they were storming the Capitol because Reagan
Right.
was right there on the
Yep.
steps. He was talking about a
Isn't
different
that something?
policy.
Isn't that
Yep.
something as
Okay.
far as how
That's
the
exactly
narrative
what
is always crafted? When
Exactly.
it
That's
comes
exactly
to
what
us.
happened. And if you go back and check the history of the
No,
NRA,
I'm right
okay,
there with
if you
you.
check the history of the NRA, the
Yep.
NRA started and they made more money during that time because they kept showing brothers and sisters
With
Yep.
guns.
all firearms, just them, okay?
Yep.
Militant, this, that, and the third. And that's exactly how they got started. And they went national with it.
Yep.
They went national.
And I will tell you what's interesting and what I find still disturbing to this day. You will have more advocacy on the part of people who support the Second Amendment
Mhm.
Yep.
for these seditionists,
Mhm.
these traitors to our Constitution,
Exactly.
than you ever would for someone who lawfully carried, for someone Black who lawfully carried and was murdered by a scared police officer.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
You look at Philando Castile and the crickets
Yep.
we heard from the NRA and all of these Second Amendment enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas they will go to the mat for these people who should be under a jail.
There's
Exactly.
no doubt about it. That's how
And that to me is not okay.
it's not okay.
Right.
But we have to now, with this new administration, we're going to get a voice. You see, I mean, the best thing about this new administration that I just find reassuring is the fact that, see, when Obama came in, Obama couldn't do anything because he was always the angry Black man. Couldn't say
And
anything.
he was hamstringed by a Republican legislator.
There's no doubt about it.
legislature.
Okay. But
Yeah.
he didn't flex the way he wanted to flex. With Kamala comes in with such swagger that she's like, wait, hold on, Joe.
And
We
not,
seen
and
all
look,
this
I
already.
love her. I love that not only does she come in with that, but she's got so much street cred when it comes to both sides of this issue.
Right.
Yep.
When it comes to both sides of and what people do, okay, so and I was Team Kamala before. That was my candidate, FYI.
Okay.
She my president for real. But the reason why I say that is in terms of having the law enforcement background, she took a lot of flack for the things that happened out of the DA's office in California. But however, what people are not giving her props for, they don't give her props for her criminal justice reform, the reentry programs that are the model for the country right now. She created a reentry platform that basically is the model for the country right now. She also was very, very vocal and instrumental in a lot of the data and research driven policing that happens now, because without data, people would not even be studying the disparities in policing.
Exactly.
Right.
And that is when it comes to things like that makes a difference in how people are represented, because numbers can't lie.
That's true.
Okay. When you're talking about statistically, we're not more criminal as people statistically, we're policed heavier.
Right.
Exactly.
And let me tell you a secret. You're gonna find crime where you look for it.
Exactly.
You're gonna find it where you look for it. So if you're looking if you're looking heavier in areas that are socioeconomically depressed, if you're looking heavier in places that have more minorities, that kind of thing, all these things are related. Yeah. None of this happens in a vacuum. So when you look at data-driven policing and data-driven criminal justice, you can find ways to create change that are not biased.
True. That's true. See, I'm gonna tap with both music and political. I'm gonna go Reverend Al Green. Now he said some really great points about how they educate blacks, how they educate the different minorities versus the other counterparts, which help actually influential how they create criminals. They lack certain things in order to create a criminal. They give them a lack of certain. Then, like I was on TV, I was looking on TikTok today, and young Asian guy had his 2 sons, and he asked them, "What are your goals in investing in real estate?" These kids are 16 and maybe 17 years old. You know what the kid says? "I want to buy my first property and I'm gonna flip the second property and I'm gonna do a first flip." The other son said, "You know what? I want to create more passive income." And then, now we ever seen a black man get up with 2 kids and say, "Hey, what do you plan on doing the next 10 years of your life or next 5 years of your life?" Because we're not taught to do that to our kids.
There is a paradigm shift that has to happen as well as far as culturally with us. Yes, we do have to become, more financially and more economically astute. But however, I will say this: you don't know what you don't know.
So
and when you're faced with generations of blight in communities based on redlining and things like that, or being locked out of certain positions you got to understand, people say, they're tired of hearing about what happened 400 years ago. It wasn't 400 years ago. It went on for 400 years.
yes, exactly.
It wasn't 400 years ago. It was 50 years ago.
That's right.
So there are people still alive today who remember seeing colored and whites only signs.
That's right.
And that's not some distant thing. So when people tell us that we have to get over it and we have to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, that whole Reagan-esque bootstrap philosophy, what if you ain't got no boots?
Right.
What if for generations you ain't never even seen a boot store in your neighborhood? You know what I mean? So these are the things we have to combat before we even get to the place where we are building generational wealth. We have to get to the wealth part here in this generation.
Exactly.
Yeah. I talk about that I talk about that in my book. Poverty mindset, blue collar mindset, millionaire mindset. And the reason why I talk about that is, I learned a lot of things too, but just in real talk right now, it's easier for an Asian to come into our neighborhood and get a Chinese store than it is for a brother like me to come in and, let's say I want to sell sneakers, get a sneaker shop. The money's different.
Let's go there. Let's go there, because I was an investment banker for a number of years. Well, there is there's a reason for that, and it's called the risk of our credit.
Right.
We present an inherent credit risk when it comes to investing in investors.
Right.
Why? Because of all the things we discussed: generational poverty, crime-ridden neighborhoods. People, when you say you want a sneaker shop, they're going to ask, first thing they're going to ask you is where.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
And that in itself comes with risk, and banks and traditional finance sources are very risk averse when it comes to people who haven't had the luxury of wealth stability. And I'm being democratic when I say that.
That's true. I'm gonna piggyback what you just said. I'm gonna pick what you said now. When I was first thought of real estate investing, the first thing they said was the easiest property to buy was property in a war zone area.
Yep.
War zone area considered poverty. People are less fortunate, and plus people like us, nobody will ever buy it.
Right.
Gangs, drugs, hookers, everything you think of is in a bad.
That's why my hometown is owned by foreign sources. Is about 80% owned by foreign sources. Detroit is owned by foreign sources. 80% of Detroit is owned by foreign sources.
Because I look at Detroit. Oh, let me tell you a story now.
Chocolate City.
Detroit. I could have bought a whole entire block for less than $20,000.
Oh, sure.
But the only reason why the catch of it was they had a clause, a beautification clause. The government would give me a thing of beautification. If I'm buying a property and going to beautify the property, they would give it to me for pennies on a dollar.
Yep.
to fix
Can
it.
I'm gonna bring that home and make it a little more personal as well. I'll bring that home. Every house I ever grew up in is demolished.
Oh wow.
I looked on Google Earth for every address that I ever had growing up,
Wow.
boarded up or demolished.
Yep.
You know
Cleveland,
something?
Yeah, that's
Cleveland is the same way.
deep.
You
That's
know,
deep.
and they do that for a particular reason. One, because we don't take the time to educate our kids the way that our counterparts do. That's the first thing. But the same thing too, I just want to piggyback off what you said. We also have risk adversities when we see each other.
Yeah.
And the problem is if you look at other cultures, like if you go to Chinatown, anywhere that you go in this country has US banks, but they have Asian banks, their own home banks that they put their money into. The Jewish community, okay, people don't understand this, that $1 in the Jewish community stays in the community. 80%, 80 cents on the dollar stays in the
Yep.
Jewish community.
Okay. Let's have that talk. Let's talk about
Yeah.
the circulation of a dollar. Let's talk
Exactly.
about the circulation of a dollar.
But remember, now, I'm gonna tell you
How
one
long
thing.
do you think? No,
Hold
talk
on.
to me. And I'm gonna look this up really quickly because I want to be accurate. How long do you think that a dollar circulates in the Black community?
Oh, 17 cents on every dollar.
No, how long?
2 seconds.
Not that long. Not that long at
No,
all.
maybe-
Because
probably
if you talk
circulate-
about 80 cents within a month, not
Month?
that long at all.
No.
It's only 17 cents that actually stays in the community. So it's usually
Yeah,
out within
less than that.
24 to 48 hours. Because we are a culture of material things. We wear our
Exactly.
wealth on our back,
We're very,
whereas our counterparts,
very consumer.
But
Okay,
too,
so when we talk about the wealth gap, that's where it begins.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so in the wake of the pandemic and the protests, this is a study that was done, and it's a common recurring statistic that money in circulation within communities. NAACP did a study, and a couple other organizations as well, and suggests that unregulated, okay, the lifespan of the average dollar in Asian communities, 28 days. In Jewish communities, 19 days. White communities, 17 days. Black communities, 6 hours.
6 hours.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. That's pretty much sound what it sound
And
like.
just think of what that does to community wealth,
Yeah.
blight in communities. When you talk about ownership,
Yep.
when you
Yeah.
talk about the basis of what we call the American dream,
Right.
okay, 2.5 kids owning a home with a white picket fence and a car in the garage.
Yeah.
By and large, for centuries and generation upon generation, we found ourselves locked out of that American dream for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Well, we actually had it.
Wait, Romy.
Well,
They
there was a
burnt it
section
down.
of time
They burnt
post-war.
it down.
Yeah, we had
Post-war, there was a section of
Wall
time
Street.
where there was, and the Industrial Revolution,
Yeah.
where there
Yeah.
was. Let me qualify that. Yes, there was a section of time where there was growth.
Yeah.
But there was never true equity.
Nope.
There was never true equity. There was growth.
Yeah.
You had a lot of soldiers come home with the GI Bill who were able to own and buy homes. My grandfather was one of them. The house that my mother grew up in, it still is still in Highland Park, Michigan. Y'all go see my grandmama. She's 90. She's 92. She's still sitting there on Rhode Island in Highland Park. Cutest house on the block. What? But no, I mean, but seriously, this is when they came back from the war. They worked in the factories.
Yeah.
They owned their homes. They built their families, sent their kids to school, what have you. Then you had a generation later where, after all of the unrest of the civil rights movement and those gains by our communities, it was flooded with drugs.
Yep.
Families were broken up.
Yep.
The jail, the pipeline, the school to prison pipeline sent a lot of our men away from families.
Yep.
So you've had this perfect storm again of all the wrong things that have led to this stagnancy in growth. Then, but here's how resilient we are.
Yeah.
Then you have women, Black women, become the most educated demographic in this nation,
That's right.
still making 65 cents on the dollar.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
That's that's where the inequity lives.
Yeah.
You know, we've risen above each of these places where we find these hardships. We've risen above, and then you find with one obstacle gone, here's a higher one.
That's right.
You know,
Is that
Right.
true?
higher hurdle.
That is true. Hey, for example, I'm gonna go back to Harlem. Everybody told me let's go back to Harlem. We know Harlem, believe it or not, probably one of the few richest Black neighborhoods there will ever be, and that will be in the whole entire world. Because the fact of the matter is, you remember the Cotton Club, you remember all this stuff. They had actually Black businesses that was prospering. They didn't own that. Matter of fact, the first Black bank was where?
National Bank of Harlem.
Harlem, New York, and it's still there to this day.
Actually, it's not. It got bought out by Bank of America, believe
Oh,
it or
come
not.
on. We lost that too? Okay.
That's like I would love for us to be to have that still.
Always said like,
It's like BET back in the day when they got
Oh, right.
Viacom. We ain't even got BET
no,
no more.
no more.
Yeah.
Wait, we lost the Black Bank, BET. What is next? Wait,
Well, the thing is, you got to realize that every time that we've gotten to a point, where we hit that threshold and that bar, something happens.
Yeah.
Bob Johnson had to sell because the Park Avenue advertisers stopped advertising to him. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
For certain things that were going on in his network that they didn't like.
There's leverage. There's power in leverage when it comes to our consumerism, and there is also the powers that be that want to keep us as consumers.
Yeah,
True.
absolutely. And
That is
with
true.
National Bank of Harlem, the reason why they fell was because no white banks would lend to the sharecroppers in the South. All right.
Yeah.
So when the Depression happened, they put the bond, they put the farm, everything on that loan to get that cotton or whatever it is they were bringing up north, right?
Yeah.
And the white farmers down there was like, well, we're not going to let Jeb get his money, right? They would
So
burn,
it's on the prices.
right? They would burn the crop, and if you don't have any crop, you have to.
Yes, it's for the loan.
And not only that, the market manipulation. You say you flood the market and sink the prices.
Right.
Pretty
Absolutely.
much.
So you have a combination of all that. So now you have a bank that has paper that nobody
It's worth nothing.
It's worth nothing.
Yeah.
And you just come in and buy a bank, pennies on the dollar.
Right.
Just like, okay, so you have those examples. You have the Tulsa riots. You have this concerted effort to hinder Black and brown wealth to an extent. And that's not to say that now, and let's, I don't want to get in the weeds because
No, it's institutionalized.
what you'll have anomalies, and you'll have people who believe in rugged individualism, and those people who have gained some level of wealth and success, and then people will point to them and say, well, if they can do it, why can't you? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But those are the anomalies because they need someone to point to say it's all equal because there was a Barack Obama. It's all equal because there was a Beyonce or a Jay. It's all equal because this person is doing well. Well, that person does not a whole community make.
Right. Right. And Byron Allen said it, when he
I love Byron Allen, by the way. He is the guru.
Yeah, but the thing about it,
entertainment game and really making power moves. He moves in silence, but he gets it done.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. But he actually said it. He said when he was going through his negotiations and he was talking to a gentleman, he said, show me the white person that speaks for every white person in the country. Okay. And he was like, what are you talking about? He was like, there is none. So he said, so why should I allow one particular individual or Al Sharpton, whoever was negotiating, to speak for me?
That's what I never understood about the phenomenon of the Black leader.
Yeah. I mean, Dick Gregory said it best too. Don't forget Dick Gregory. He said it best too. We need to lead ourselves instead of leaving us into something we don't know what's going on. I mean, Think about it. You don't know what's going on. Why you let somebody lead you something you don't know is there? Like, what? You just follow.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the best things that I remember about former President Obama was that he said we're the ones we were waiting on.
That's right.
It's us. It's on us. It's on each one of us.
Every individual had their own responsibility, accountability for themselves.
And that right there, I think that people expected him to be Barack the Magic Genie and get everything to be in, overnight wonderful in 8 years. That and he's just one man. And when we didn't show up for the midterms, that everything that happened after that was our fault.
Yeah.
So and he got lambasted. He got raked over the coals for a lot of stuff that we could have prevented by just showing up at the polls in the midterms.
Exactly.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
They don't educate you about the midterms. Only educate you about is the main elections. They don't tell you about the midterm, the Senate election, the House election. They don't tell you about it. You know, they never publicize it. So you don't know. Exactly. But remember, when they publicize certain things, it's to a certain community or group. They don't put few in the black neighborhood, bunch in the white neighborhood, few over here. Now let's see. You want Republicans? We're gonna flood the Republican area because we want them to go out and vote. Limit the Democrats. You notice the Democrats, let they know about it, they'll flood you. But if they don't know, you ever see anything?
Well, the other thing about that too, let's be real. And I think that Stacey Abrams is a superwoman. She is. They ought to offer her whatever job she wants.
That's right.
she matter of fact, if Joe don't feel like showing up one day, he needs to just go on and say, hey. Because here's the beauty of it. Here's the beauty of what she did. And she could show you better than she could tell you that all elections are local.
Yep.
That's a saying that people don't understand. All elections are local because this very moment in history that we're living is due to less than 1 million people.
That's right.
Less than 1 million people made the difference in places like Georgia, in places like Pennsylvania, in places like Michigan.
Yep.
Less than 1 million people. And those people look like us.
Yep.
That's right.
And those people look like us. And that right there is the reason those votes were challenged.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
Let's be real.
No doubt about it.
Had those votes come from areas that traditionally voted another way.
Yep. Will never happen.
Okay. She went out and found and cultivated and built up millions of new voters on the sheer strength of being educated about what this meant, not just the top of the ticket, but all the way down the ballot. Yep. She worked all the way back from her cycle, her election cycle, where she was woefully mistreated. And if ever there were election fraud, it would have been by allowing the man she was running against to run the election.
Exactly.
Hello.
Exactly.
Hello.
That's right.
Yeah.
So she took that and cultivated new voters out of those who had been disenfranchised. They closed several centers, several election centers, several voting centers.
Yep.
They closed them in Black areas to make it harder for Black people to vote.
Yep.
They closed them. So what did she do? She got with Uber. She got with Lyft. Yep. She got with different transportation entities and made sure that people could make it out to vote. she went and did the legwork to help people register to early vote. She went and did the legwork to get mail-in voting processed.
Right.
When they were trying to, I mean, and then to turn around and try to handicap the doggone post office. I got Christmas gifts still ain't made it.
Right.
I was trying the post office for this mess.
Late Christmas, ain't it?
Absolutely.
At Christmas time.
Too funny.
Oh wow.
My grandson still ain't got his new robe.
Oh man.
Wait,
Funny.
wait, Mama, you tell me this now, Mama. Tell me now. Let's tell me.
Well, listen, I want to. Yeah, our hour is up, so I want.
Wait, we got one thing though.
Music.
One thing, George.
Hold on a minute. I was saying I want to bring you back to talk more about the music and how artists now are thriving through this particular process and being inspirational. You know, but we could talk about politics all day.
Yeah.
As you can see. Okay. But we only talked about music for 20, 25 minutes, but I wanted to add on to that to see what your opinion was. So we definitely want to bring you back.
Yes.
You can sing a song though.
Okay. I'm going to give you guys a preview of the single that will be out for, it'll be my song for Valentine's Day. Now, this is an exclusive.
That's right.
Hear that, George?
Real talk.
It's not. I'm on my phone. I'm gonna play it for you from my phone. I'm telling you, this is that exclusive, and this will be my Valentine's Day single, and you're getting a preview. Hang on. This is called "Forever in a Day." Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Today is so special. I couldn't wait for the sun to rise. Yeah. Today I take a step into forever, taking your name and I look into your eyes. And I know that it's meant to be. There's no one else on earth made so perfectly for me. I'm excited about what the future holds for us. As long as we're together, we can conquer the world, baby. Forever friend, forever love, forever
Right.
and even the day after that. You're my whole wide world, my universe, my heaven. I love you forever and a day. 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 Forever and a day.
Nice.
Forever and a day. Forever and a day.
That is the preview, y'all.
Oh man.
We appreciate it.
Wait, you thought those songs?
No doubt.
Now you gotta come back when it's dropped. Now you gotta come back.
I will. That is my Valentine's Day single. That will be the title of the album, Forever in a Day. It'll be out on February 14th.
Nice. Tell us where they can find you on social media.
You can find me at www.carmenmillermusic.com. I am on Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere you get good music, Pandora, everywhere.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, listen, y'all, that was
Call your radio station and request.
no doubt. Well, listen,
Go old school terrestrial radio.
right now. Well, we definitely appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, man.
Thank you
Are
so
going
much.
to have you again. Trust me.
We
Yes,
definitely.
I enjoy you guys, and I'm so glad you guys have this platform. I appreciate you so much for having me. Thank you.
Awesome.
Oh, pleasure. We love it.
Oh man.
Oh, man.
That was the show.
What that was a big show.
That was a show, man. Look, I think that was one. I don't want to say one of our best shows, but I really enjoyed the conversation. You know, I really
I did too.
You know, I mean, it was really good. Listen,
too, and educational too.
Oh man, through the roof, through the roof. Those pearls that they drop. I'm gonna have to listen to this a couple times just to make
Yeah,
sure I
me
absorb
too.
it in my soul.
It's fine.
You know what I'm saying? But hey, listen, that's our show. We want to thank Mrs. Miller for being with us, and this is George,
Hey, this is Phrase.
and that was Real Talk with George and Fraser. Y'all have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend,